Hello, everybody. How we all doing? Hmm, I don't know what's happening, but I hope you guys can see me. Okay. Can you see me? Okay. Yes, great. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining in. It's 6 minutes past the hour of 8, and we're just gonna start. No need waiting for others to join. We believe that they will join in as we go on. My name is Rosemary, and it's such an honor to host today's conversation on overcoming addiction. But before we go into the topic, I'd just like to give a small introduction about Wisdom Connect, this platform that you just joined. Wisdom Connect is a platform where we discuss about real life issues. We always take it back to our guiding principle. We believe that no one is an island and we can learn from each other. We don't want to do life alone. We should do life together collectively because we can learn from each other. We're very intentional about growth on this platform. Um, we're intentional about and learning, unlearning, and relearning because we understand that we do not know it all. So thank you so much, everyone that has joined in. We really appreciate you, and we hope that we learn from your experience as much as you learn from ours, and then we become better people for it. That's like the whole idea, becoming the best version of ourselves. So that's what we do. Obviously, that's one of our greatest vision or mission here on this platform. So quick, some ground rules as first. So here is a strictly no critics zone. So what that simply means is that we'd encourage people not to criticize another person's opinion. Even if that opinion does not work, does not sit well with you, it's not your kind of opinion, that's okay. You can just go ahead and give your own opinion, but not where you're talking back at the other person and making the person feel less of their self because of their opinion. We understand that we have different nature, nurture, culture, and so we have different opinions, and to be honest, those opinions can be valid as much as possible. So we'd encourage people to please don't criticize any other person as much as possible. Um, Another thing is that please raise your hand if you want to speak so we can avoid decorum. So we can have decorum and then we don't have too many people speaking all at the same time. So just raise your hand and definitely once I see that, I'm going to call you to speak. Be intentional on becoming the best version of yourself. Like I said to you, what we do here is that we're very intentional on becoming the best version of ourselves. So we are very open to learning and unlearning and relearning, right? It is really important that we're very open to learning. Yes, I just said the last point, and then the last thing I want to say is please no use of foul language. Like don't say let's just be as polite as possible. Let's just try to be, you know what I mean? Just give your point, say what you have to say in the most polite way possible, right? Anyway, so we're just gonna go straight into today's topic. Today we're talking about overcoming addiction, right? And as I was thinking about the topic, I was just thinking about it and having conversations with different people, and I was just asking, does everybody actually have an addiction, or is it just me? Or like, does everybody actually have like something that is almost like but when we think about the topic, I'm not going to go deep into it. We'll have like a different knowledge about it, symptoms for you to know that, okay, this thing might be an addiction, and then how to actually overcome it. Because first of all, we need to know the symptoms, because sometimes a number of us might be in denial. Oh, no, it's not an addiction. No. But it just might be, or it might be, moving towards that. So whatever the case may be, we pray that we're able to solve that today. So before we go in, one thing that we like to do very much on this platform is just go back to the roots, understand what we're talking about. So anybody real quick want to tell us what they believe addiction is? What do you think addiction is? Like, what is addiction? Like the meaning, like the layman, like anything you think addiction is, just say, like, that's what addiction is. Your meaning, your understanding of addiction. Anybody want to say anything of addiction? Joy, you are unmuted. Do you want to speak, please?
Okay.
What did you say, ma'am? Okay, sorry. I thought I heard you speaking. Okay, anybody want to say anything about what an addiction is? What do you think an addiction is? Anybody want to say anything? Addiction. Welcome, Ken, Daniel. Welcome, Pelumi. Welcome, Henry. Thanks for joining me. Anybody want to say anything about addiction? Okay, I probably just go straight to just read what I've written down on addiction before we go into other things. But I would like that we make this very relatable, right? None of us is perfect, and Wisdom Connect is a safe place. Our slogan says "My safe place," so we try to build a safe environment. So and I will tell you for a fact, one symptom, so one thing that can reveal to you that you are healing or getting better from a thing is that you're able to speak about it. Just sometimes just let yourself just express these things and just say. So we also create such platforms where people can just talk about some things and then release the burden from their heart. So, it might be a bit, but it's okay. I might not be asking you for the exact addiction that you have, but I can be asking you about different options and different things that you can talk about in those lines. So anybody want to say anything about what an addiction is? What do you think an addiction is? Joy, you're unmuted again. Do you want to say something?
Well,
okay. Yes, Mary, please go ahead.
Okay. Can we define as something you do often, very often, that is bad, has like a bad impact on your lifestyle or on your life, but you are unable to control it because it gives you so much. It gives you so much pleasure. It gives you, it pumps you up mostly, and
I didn't get that. It comes to what?
It pumps you up. Like you get,
pumps you up. Okay, yeah.
Hormonal, you get pumped.
Okay.
Something you do repeatedly and you're quite unable to stop it. Or stopping it is an issue.
Wow, okay. Amazing. So it's something that you do often that pumps you up and you're unable to stop. Interesting. I like that. I really like that. Anybody else want to say anything about addiction? What addiction is to you? Before someone else come up, I remember seeing this when I posted this. Someone posted this on her status, and she said this, and it really caught my attention. She said addiction is equals to uncontrollable, compulsive, toxic habits. And then I was thinking about it. Does addiction have to be toxic? Anybody? Do you think addiction is toxic? As long as an addiction, it has to be toxic. If you still want to tell us about what you think about what addiction is, you can also say that. However, if you think addiction is toxic, you can also say that. Whatever it is you want to say. Anybody?
Okay, can I go ahead?
Yes, you can go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think the idea of toxicity will come from the fact that it's an habit you cannot control. Everything you're doing, it's an habit you cannot control.
Okay.
So if you have a there's habit and then there's addiction. Habit is something you do often also, but you can learn and change your habits. Do you get? But when you're talking about addiction, there's something extra to it, something dangerous to it, something almost uncontrollable. So it's out of what you control at that particular point. And if you're not controlling it, there's a measure of danger attached to it. Do you get?
Wow. Thank you so much, Mary. I like what you said about the fact there's a habit and there's addiction. So we should not make mistakes of both. Like, there are two different things, right? So from what Mary is saying is, because you have a habit, as long as you can control that habit, as long as you still have, you know yourself, you know what I mean? You can still tell yourself, hey, Rosemary, no, not this way. It's still a habit. At that point, it hasn't gotten to an addiction based on what Mary has said. But when it's an addiction, it means that you cannot control it. It's a habit you are unable to control. Thank you so much for that, Mary. Any of us want to say anything about what an addiction is before we move forward? I want to see if we can keep to 1 hour for today's conversation. So, any other person want to say anything about what an addiction is? I was also asking that, do you think addiction is toxic? Yes, Palome, please go ahead.
All right. So just to summarize what she said, it's basically the same thing. It's a negative compulsive habit, to put it in that light, because habits can be good or bad, but then the negative one, which is compulsive, is it compulsive? I think that's the word, compulsive. So it's a negative compulsive habit.
Wow. Thank you. Negative compulsive habits. Interesting. All these questions. I like that you guys are saying all of this, but because I was just thinking and I was just asking questions. I was just saying, so someone that is addicted to prayer, is that going to be negative? We'll come back to that, but just think about it. Like, I like what Mary said about the fact that habits can be controlled, addiction cannot be. But if you are addicted to something that is supposedly good, is that going to be a bad thing? Anyways, we'll come back to that. So I'll just read out what I have here about addiction, the meaning, and then we'll move over to the symptoms and all of that. So I have different meanings here on addiction, right? And before I even go ahead, guys, what comes to mind? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear addiction? Anybody? Like, what's the first, like when they say, oh, addiction, this person addict, this person an addict, this person, what do you think of?
Drugs.
Drugs, right? Thank you. Any other person?
Pornography, things like that.
Pornography. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you actually, he's very right. When you hear this person is an addict, you're thinking of drugs, you're thinking of alcohol, you're thinking of pornography, you're thinking of every other bad thing. But can we actually, I don't want to be ahead of myself, but I think we can also be addicted to supposedly good things, right? But the first thing that comes to your mind is the bad things, like, and then like Pelumi said, is a negative compulsive habit. So it means that when it comes to addiction, what goes in line with that is something that is negative. So I hope we're drawing the line. We're knowing that this is a habit and this is an addiction, so we can marry both of them eventually. Anyways, I'll just read what I have here. Addiction is a chronic, lifelong condition. Yes, Fisayo, please go ahead.
Okay, so I don't think addiction must be negative, but the effect of the fact that it is addiction, that means you are dependent on it, like you must do it, right? The effect might be negative, but the action itself must not necessarily be negative. I don't know if I'm making sense. You get?
Yes. The action might not be negative, but the effect might be negative.
But the effect,
so addiction, from what you're saying, addiction might be positive or can be positive.
Yes, but it's the effect of it that is mostly negative. If you are dependent on anything, too dependent on anything, usually it's really negative. Yeah.
Okay, but now a question for you. If I'm dependent on prayer, does that make it a bad thing?
First of all, do we know anybody that is still okay? Yeah, there's some people like that. But if you have other things to do and you are praying all the time, it makes it a bad thing. I'm sorry, I'm a Christian, I believe in prayer. But when there are things to be done, for example, you have to go to work and you are still praying to 8 a.m. Or there are chores to be done. No, we used to hide behind those things. There are chores to be done in the house in the morning when you wake up. And that's when you will not pray for you. So how long will you continue like that? You have to be well-rounded. So you cannot just take that part of your life and just focus entirely on it. So there's time for everything. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. That takes us back to what Mary was saying earlier about the fact that what you can control and what you cannot control. So what that means, what Fisayo just said is, even if I love to pray, even if I am addicted to prayer, I would also have controls. I also know that, my addiction gets line, when it's time to go to work, it's time to go to work. When it's time to do other things, it's time to do other things. So from what Fisayo is saying, Marina, what Mary is saying is that there has to be a little, that means there's a bit of control. Fisayo, am I speaking your mind? There's a bit of control, even though it's positive, correct? Yes, Pelumi, please go ahead.
Okay, so from what she said, I think there's a thin line between it being an addiction and being a lifestyle. I think that's where the difference comes in. So if prayer, I don't think true prayer can be an addiction. It is more like a lifestyle. So you leave it out. It's not that you are doing it. So if you're supposed to go to work, you go to work, but you're praying. As you're going, you're praying. As you're walking, you're praying. It's now a lifestyle. It's not, I don't think it can be seen as an addiction, because an addiction will have that negative effect, and there's no negative effect to praying all the time.
Right. There's no negative effect to praying all the time. Hey.
Yeah, just the action, like how you're doing it. If you're taking it wrongly, but through prayer and it being a lifestyle. No, I don't think so.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So there's no negative effect to praying all the time. However, how you decide to do it, I think that also goes to what she was saying about the timing, your choice of timing, about the prayer and all of that. That also, puts that in. But our topic today is not prayer. So let's not dwell a lot about that. I just asked that, to know, to bring up the fact that is there can addiction be negative or positive, right? Okay, so moving on to what I'd written down. Thank you so much for everybody that is joining in. We're talking about overcoming addiction, and right now we talked about we're defining what addiction is to us, and then also asking if addiction has to be toxic. So we had people say that addiction is negative, and we have some other person say that addiction might not necessarily be negative, it could also be positive, but the effect of it can be negative. Thank you so much. So I'll just read what I have real quick so I can move. I really want us to end at 9:05 at the latest. Hopefully, God help me. I want to try to work on time management, so God help me. So I was reading, I said that addiction is a chronic condition that involves compulsive seeking and taking of a substance or performing of an activity despite negative or harmful consequences. Addiction can significantly impact your health, relationship, and overall quality of life. I have another meaning here that says addiction is a treatable chronic medical disease involving complex interaction among brain circuits, genetics, the environment, and an individual life experiences. Another one says the inability to stop doing or using something, especially something harmful, is also an addiction. Then the last one I have here says the need or strong desire to do or have something, or a very strong liking for something. So the need or strong desire to do or have something, or a very strong liking for something. That last part, I was like, hey, by me. So a very strong liking for something. If I like something, that doesn't mean I'm addicted to it. Am I addicted to it? Am I addicted to Wisdom Connect because I don't get it? But anyways, I just conversations that are just topics, meaning that I saw online, and I wanted to bring that up together. So it's we're just telling us different things. So when you say addiction, it doesn't always have to be the most terrible things. It could also be a simple thing. It could be that you're addicted to social media. It could be that you're addicted to gaming. It could be that you're addicted to your family. I don't know, but I think so. You can be addicted to anything, like anything. You can be addicted to your phone. You can be addicted to food. You can be addicted to exercising. Exercising is supposed to be a good thing, but then if you're addicted to that, way they call them gym rats and the likes. Like you can be addicted to those kind of. You can be addicted to anything. Really think about think about it. There's nothing you cannot be addicted to. You can be addicted to absolutely anything. So that's what this meaning is trying to tell us. So when we talk about addiction, we're talking about me and you. We're not just talking about people that are suffering from chronic diseases. We're talking about people that that from things that we do on a daily basis. And to be honest, sometimes when I think about it, I think it might be understandable sometimes when you have a particular habit because something led you there. There's a reason you started doing that thing or started acting in that way. Doesn't mean that it's okay to be there, but sometimes some things lead us there, right? But today we're talking about how to overcome them, whether they're good, whether they're bad, as long as an addiction. Someone said something to me which was really profound. I wanted to say this at the end of today's meeting, but I'm going to say it now. Addiction is excess. Anything excess is wrong, right? Anything excess. So back to what Mary was saying, you're saying habits, I can control. Addiction, I cannot control. So now, if I'm linking that to what Fisayo said, prayer is positive, which is fine. However, there's control. But when you are unable to control it, your timing, they say, spirit is moving. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Christian. I love God. I love prayer and all of that. But people will say the spirit is moving, and you forget that there's a timing. There's a time to close. There's a time to not do something. Sometimes we can take it overboard as humans. So bottom line, I think what we're just trying to say is the excess of anything, as long as there's excess, it can be harmful to you. Yes, Mary says the spirit is subject to the mind. Yes, thank you so much for that, Mary. So as long as it's excess, you might need to check it out and know why there's an excess in it. Okay, guys, moving on. So now, guys, what do you think are symptoms of addiction? When you think about addiction, what do you think can be the symptoms? Or what do you think, what symptoms would you have identified in your life? Have you identified any symptoms in your life? If you have, what were there? Or what were they? Or if you haven't, or what something you know, okay, when I see these signs, it means that there is something, I'm addicted to something. So anybody, what do you think are symptoms of addictions? Anybody? Some were quiet. What's happening? Why are we quiet? Yes, Mary, please go ahead.
That would be the main thing we've been hammering all along. Something you do uncontrollably. So you shouldn't be doing this at this particular time. Probably even have like other engagement or some other productive things to do. But you just find yourself doing this particular thing instead of doing like the other things you're supposed to be doing with your life.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So something that you do uncontrollably is a symptom. I like that. Thank you. Any other person want to say anything? Because there are different things that make you feel like, you know what, I think I'm getting addicted to this, or I'm addicted to, I was speaking with my brothers and they were just saying, some people are addicted to Korean movies. You just want to keep watching those movies.
Serious one. It's a serious one.
Next episode. Sorry?
That should be studied. It's a serious one. I think it should be studied.
It should be studied. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, Fisayo, please go ahead.
Okay, so for me, what I'm addicted to is sleep. It started as I love to sleep. Oh, I sleep a lot. Then it led to then at a time, as a teenager, I was like, I don't have anything to do, Jerry. I just like to sleep. But what I noticed is that now, I cannot control it. I cannot. Oh, this thing I'm telling you. As in, like after breakfast, like this, no matter if I slept 12 hours after breakfast,
another round of sleep.
My eyes just go like, no matter how I plan my day, do exercise, do this, do that. But when I notice, of course, there's no way as an adult, it is a destructive behavior. As in, like, very, very destructive. So, like, I had to deliberately start working on it. Then social media too one can also be addicted to social media. But I think I have control over that. I'm just saying. I didn't notice, I didn't hear you mention it. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying, and thank you so much for sharing. Think about it. They'll say, go and rest, but then now that can also be an addiction. Yeah, really. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Fisayo. Yes, people can be addicted to social media, definitely. Any other person want to say anything about addiction, about the symptoms of addiction, what you think about the symptoms of addiction, or any symptoms that you have experienced for yourself or somebody else experienced that you want to share? Any symptoms? Mary talked about something you cannot stop, something that you a habit you have no control over. That's what Mary mentioned. Then, of course, Fisayo also mentioned what she has what she's addicted to. So, any other person want to say anything about symptoms of addiction? Symptoms, any symptoms.
I still need help. That's why I didn't say anything. I need help.
Okay, definitely. We trust God that by the end of today's meeting, we'll find help. Amen. Okay, anybody want to say anything? Anybody? Okay. I'll just move on because you guys don't want to say anything. That thing that people like to do, that when is like 8:45, 8:50. Today we're going to end at 9:05. God willing. Yes, Pelumi, please go ahead.
Okay, so I think something you do that doesn't necessarily leave you in a better state at the end of the day. So it gives short-term, yes, it can give short-term sense of, I don't know, is it not fulfillment now, but being okay, but then the result is not what you want, and then you still keep on doing it. So it doesn't leave you in a better state of mind, but you still can't help doing it. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for that. Doesn't leave you in a better state of mind, living in a bad state, basically, and then just give you maybe short-term pleasure, short-term relief. But beyond that, like after that, I remember saying to a friend one time, I'm like, I get that sometimes you might want to, drink up when you feel sad and all of that. And then I said to him, I said, okay, and after that, do you still feel sad by the time you've woken up and you don't? So really, it might not really do a lot. So yes, thank you for that. Another person want to say anything? Okay, so I'll just go ahead and just read out the things that I've written now. I think they're really things that we've already spoken about, but just to give more points to it, I would do that. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to try to end this meeting by 9:05. God help us. So one thing for symptoms here is the inability to stop. It goes back to what Mary said earlier. You're unable to stop. You want to stop this thing, but it's almost as if you cannot stop. Has anybody experienced this thing where once you go on social media, for instance, Instagram, because they have a lot of feeds, it's almost as if your mind, I just want to check something and come out. And then you're there 1 hour, you're there 2 hours, and you're like, what's happening? Like, don't have other things to do? You know what I mean? So you want to stop this thing, but you are unable to stop it. You just find your heart of hearts, you want to control it. In your heart of hearts, you're like, you know what, this is okay. I don't want, but you just find it so difficult to stop. That's symptoms. So whatever it is in your life right now that you can identify that these are things that you're trying to stop. These are things. So like we said, it doesn't have to be the most crazy things. It doesn't have to be alcohol. It doesn't have to be drugs. Don't get me wrong. You can be addicted to drugs, alcohol, pornography, or any other thing in those lines, right? However, there are other things that you call it simpler things, like social media, like sleep, like food, like gym, like exercising, like, you could be addicted to anything, right? You could be addicted to even shopping. Do you know people that are addicted to shopping? I know a particular person that was so addicted to shopping that she's like, please, sometimes you want to go out, because she learned and knew that, okay, this is my weakness. So what she's like, if we have to go out or if there's anything else to do with buying, she either drops her card or drops her phone, So Shalom says I'm addicted to food. Okay, we'll come back to that. That kind of thing. Like, she's like, let me not go out with my card, because at this rate, because I know myself, if I see it like this, it's see and buy. There's nothing like touch and then go and come back here. So people are addicted to different things. Remember when we talked about the definition of addiction? Talked about the fact that it can be a strong liking for something, a strong liking, like you're just like, I see this and I need to get it, or I need to have it. I need to, anything please, we need to check it. Another thing is increased tolerance as symptoms. So what this simply means is that, you want to use more substance, you want to do more of this activity to feel the same way, to feel, how it's like what Karimi was talking about, the fact that sometimes it's just short term, but you want to just take those things or do that particular thing just so that you can feel some sorts of way. Like if you do it, you feel like you feel better or you feel better, even if it's a short term thing. Let you shall just feel. Now people just say, no worry, I'll go think about tomorrow when tomorrow reach. So today, make I handle today. That kind of thing. Sometimes. So when you are seeing yourself not caring about the impact, not caring about the effect, you're just more like the now. I just want to feel this, and you always have to do it all the time. Check yourself. You get that to be. Next thing here is intense focus. If you want to say anything, you can still raise up your hand, please, and I will call you. Another thing here is intense focus on the substance or activity. So what this means is that the addiction has taken over your likes or the person's likes, and they spend more time craving and and obtaining and thinking of the subject matter. So it's more like when you're not doing it, you're thinking about it. It's more like, I don't know if this even makes sense. It's just like sometimes I'm working and I'm thinking of the next Korean series I want to watch. Oh my God, but yeah, really, it's more like you cannot stop thinking about those things. You're like, how did that happen? Did that person, you're thinking. So I'm not saying, so like I said, if you can control it, it might just be a habit. But when it's an addiction, when you cannot control it. So we're just giving you likely symptoms for an addiction. Don't get me wrong. It varies from person to person. It does not mean that everybody has to have the same kind of symptoms. But if you identify these kind of symptoms in your life, okay, you are, tilting towards addiction, right? Another thing I have here is lack of control. So the same thing that, I think this was what Mary was talking about, not inability to stop. Inability to stop is not from lack of control. So inability to stop is you want to stop, but you can't. Lack of control is saying, I want to make this a habit, but it's more than addiction. You cannot control it. You will say, okay, no, I'm just going to do this for the next 30 minutes. The next hour, the next thing you'll find yourself, you are there for 3 hours. You're there for a longer time. You cannot control it. You are trying, but you cannot control it. right? So that's lack of control. So this can make you feel guilty, can make you feel depressed, can make you feel overwhelmed, because you cannot control these things. So these are the kind of symptoms. And I want to say this, Rick, I like to say this every time on Wisdom Connect. I'm not talking from the point of knowing. I'm also learning as much as we're all learning. So don't think that Rosemary coming here to just comment. No, I'm also learning from you as much as you're learning from what I've done research on, because it's research that I'm bringing, right? Yes, sometimes your personal experiences, to be honest, but really, this is a learning platform. So we're all learning from each other, all right? The next thing I want to identify here is personal problems and health issues. These are things that will impact your every aspect of your life, literally. You just find that this particular thing is impacting your life, impacting your relationship, impacting your mental health, impacting your health, your physical health, your body. You can see that this thing is stopping me from doing the things I'm supposed to do. You know how Sarah said she identified that this thing, I need to stop to it. There has to be a way out of this. So those kind of things are different symptoms for addiction. So with that being said, I'm done with symptoms. Now we're now going to the main topic, which is the topic is, of course, overcoming addiction, but it's always good to have a ground, go back to the roots and then bring it up, right? So now, anybody here that ever had an addiction, or anybody here that would say, I've never had an addiction, I've been good with control, please just speak up and tell us how you've been doing and how are you able to bring control into your life? How are you able to get over an addiction? Did you have an addiction? How did you get over that addiction? This is something we would like to learn from you. Anybody? Anybody? You've had an addiction in the past, or you have an addiction right now, or you never had an addiction. You just know how to handle it, but you've been able to put in control, put in the right stops, or, do better for yourself. Anybody? How did you get over it? Yes. Mary, did you raise up your hand?
Yeah, sorry, wrong reaction.
No problem.
All right. So I think one of the ways to get over an addiction is to replace that habit with something else. So one of the main tenet of addiction is you're getting something out of it. Is there you're getting dopamine, you're getting pleasure. Um there's a form of pleasure, something you are getting out of it. So if you realize, or you are in a particular state of mind, for people that take drugs, probably it's when they are sad or when they are going through tough spots in life, they get. So they are usually triggers for addictions. For just like Sarah was talking about, she knows that when she's done taking breakfast, she knows after breakfast, I need to do something else. If not, I'm going to sleep. So these things have triggers, or they have something you're getting in return. So when you understand the dynamics, you can now look for other activities that you can use to replace the addiction, such that when that thing is happening, you know that if I don't do something else, I'm going to do this. So you look for something else to replace that addiction with. For somebody that sleeps immediately after, okay, for let's take for somebody
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, for someone that sleeps immediately after breakfast, the thing you might want to do is when you take your breakfast, like immediately you're dropping your plates in the sink, you're walking out of the house, you go for, let's just say 15 minutes walk. That's it. Like just go for a walk. No pressure, no, don't exert yourself. Don't make it hard to do. Just something very simple. Or I don't know, something else that if you sit still, you're going to sleep. For someone like us that used to be really addicted to Korean movies and stuff, you know that it's usually when you feel like you've done a lot during the day and you want to reward yourself, then you justify the fact that you can spend hours.
Right?
I tell you, you justify that you can spend hours to just watch Korean movie. But instead of that, you might probably want to just, when you're about to start, just think, what do I have to do tomorrow? By the time you start thinking about the things you have to do tomorrow, most likely you realize that you don't have that much time to waste and there are other things you need to do. So you just have to like monitor your triggers, find something else to replace those things or not.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Mary. Talking about monitoring your triggers and then replacing that with something else, or replacing that addiction with something else. Thank you so much. Yes, Henry Ozil, you raised up your hand earlier, and Tokwe will come to you afterwards. Henry Ozil, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good evening.
Can I go on?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, lately, it's not lately actually. I know I'm actually addicted to Twitter. Like anytime I put on my data, the first app I open is Twitter. In the morning when I wake up, even before checking my WhatsApp, it's Twitter. I just like the updates and all. So recently, I know he has been taking a lot of my time. If I check the time I spend on my phone, Twitter takes up to like 5 hours in a day that I spend. So what what I'm doing, like what I started doing like 2 weeks ago, I first of all give myself like 15 day. I put it like a fast. Let me now say this is a fast. Because if it's not a fast, you may tend to want to bend the rule. But if it's a fast, there's this mindset of I don't want to break the fast. Maybe I'm on a fast. So I put it on a fast that I'm not going to open the app for like 2 weeks. Which ended on the 1st of March. I'm back on it now. So but for that time, I now discover other things I can actually do on my phone, apart from Twitter, apart from just using my data. I can do other things that which I'm not doing now. So now, initially, what made me do the fast was because I used to have a timer on my phone that wants to set the time. Once the time elapses, the app will go off by itself, except you want to schedule the time again, which is what I used to do. Maybe I can put 1 hour before I know, like I put 1 hour to spend 1 hour on a day on Twitter. Before 9 o'clock in the morning, 1 hour has exhausted. I've put it to 2 hours. Before I know, to 3 hours to 4 hours. I don't think myself 5 hours. but but now I know that now if so what I started doing after the first ascended is that I put the timer back and I know some days I didn't even use up to the timer. So with the timer now, with the fact that I can do away with it for 15 days and I can help to cope with the timer. So that is what I'm doing now. So I just set the timer and I make sure I don't ever increase the timer. Once the timer is out, it's out. And that is what I am doing right now. Thank you.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Henry Ozil. Henry says go on a fast. One way to overcome addiction. Just go on a fast from that particular thing. Right. And if you're able to do that for the time that you're giving yourself, you know that, okay, you know what, this doesn't have control over me and I can put control on it. He says, set up a timer. I totally agree. See, Henry, let me even just confess. So I did the same timer thing, right, on Instagram. It was working well. I'll just say, 1 hour per day, blah, blah, blah. And then those kind of days where you're awake till 12 midnight. Oh, God. That's how I'll just be like, okay, I think I put 2 hours or so. And then this is 12 midnight. And then this timer started acting up. I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong with my phone at that period. It started acting up. I've not even spent, I think I've not spent so long. And the next is telling me, you cannot access this app today. Nibo, I have things to check. So as much as it's hilarious, to be honest, I had to cancel the timer because I was like, this timer is not working. But then what I also discovered that after I canceled that timer, it didn't work for me. So definitely I want to go back to my timer because there was a time it was actually working for me. Once it goes off, that's gone off. So if I don't see it, I haven't seen it, and that's it, right? And another thing I did was I put notification off. So once I don't have the notification, it means I will not go on the app. I noticed that it was the notification that was always prompting me to go on that app. So when I put off the notification, until I enter that app, I don't get to know what's happening. So that's another thing that can be done for social media. So thank you so much, Henry. Yes, Temitope, please go ahead.
Hi guys. Good evening. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Crystal, sir.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I had an addiction that it took me a long time before I believed or before I agreed that it was an addiction, yeah. Probably because I was shying away from it, or I felt it was something that I had control over it. So I used to be addicted to soda. In fact, let me even say sugar in general. Yeah. So whenever anything is wrong with me, probably I'm tired or I'm bored. Some people when they are bored, they watch TV. So mine is when I'm bored, I didn't need sugar in my system. And then I realized it was becoming too much. But in my subconscious, I thought, well, no, it's not too much. I can manage it if I want to. I can do without it if I want to. But I found myself, so I can't eat without taking a bottle of Coke or Pepsi or sugar generally. And then I realized that it was something that, though it didn't affect me health-wise, but I just, in my subconscious, I just felt, so if I do not quickly attend to this, it will probably become something that I would have to be battling with health-wise. And so what I tried to do was took my mind off it, which wasn't easy. And so one of the things that really, really gave me, that really, really helped me again was that then at some point I had acne. And then I saw a dermatologist so it was a lot. And the dermatologist said that I should take more of water. That I should try to be drinking more of water. So that was what I felt really helped me, because somebody had told me, drink water. So at every point in time, I was drinking a lot of water. So when I'm eating, what I used before was soda, but then I now, substituted it for water. So I felt that was one of the things that really helped me, because I had a situation that warranted me to drink water often, which might not be the case for some people. So a lot of people think that they can manage their addiction, which it's entirely not true. It takes a lot for you to manage an addiction. Yeah.
True.
So yeah, it takes a lot for you to manage an addiction and self-determination. So a lot of people are addicted to so many things. In fact, I don't think there is one person that is not addicted to anything. I don't think so. It might be whether good or bad. It could be anything. We're all addicted to one thing or the other. Just like, the other person said, he said he was addicted to Twitter. Yeah. So we all have one thing that we're addicted to. And I think self-determination and self-awareness is one of the things that can really help us. And again, motivation. You need to really have it in your subconscious that and you have to agree with it. You really have to agree with it. If you shy away from it, then you can help yourself. You have to agree with this, that I'm addicted to this thing. So the more you become aware of it, you are able to help yourself. I don't think anybody can help you with addiction, really. A lot of people, try to see whether a therapist or try to see this, if you see, there's no matter of doctor that you see in this life. If you are not determined personally, it's not going to help you. Even you see people that are addicted to drugs, they go, isolate themselves. They are either somewhere in one care home for a very long time without drugs. But if they come back and that determination is not there, you see them going back.
Yeah.
So there's no matter what happens, no matter the doctor that you see, if you're not determined personally that you want to stop this thing, it's not going to help. So my case was as a result of my acne. I had acne and I was advised to drink a lot of water, despite the fact that I had my self-care routine that I was doing. So it was the fact that I agreed that and I accepted that, I really wanted to treat something. And, despite the fact that I have what I was treating, if I wasn't determined, I would still be substituting it with my Coke, whether I'm having my alcohol, and I'm mixing it indirectly. So the self-determination was one of the things that really, really helped me.
Wow.
That's my 1 cent.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Temitope. I'd just like to read this out where I said addiction denied. No, not me, sorry. Someone called Mokokoma Noana said addiction denied is recovery delayed. And Tope now talking about the fact that self-determination, self-determination helps self-awareness, right? Be determined personally, like be intentional. So I was saying be intentional, right? Be intentional about this change, right? And then he talked about motivation. And there's something that he said that really caught my attention beyond all of this is I get help. Yes, the help might just be a support system. It could just be, you know, someone that can push you. You know, you're like, Omo, I'm addicted to this. I want help. I want a way out. You know, help me. Let me be accountable to you. You can get help. For him, it was a therapist. For him, it was a dermatologist. So for you, it could be anybody, right? But I believe that for you to go ahead to want to get help is because you are intentional about the change in the first place. So we've sorted out the fact of you being intentional, like you've been determined, and you've been, you know, be determined personally. So we've sorted that out. So the next thing that you can also do, that you've tried to do it by yourself, but it wasn't working, you also try to get help. Thank you so much for that, Temitope. Any of us want to say anything about addiction? Because the truth is, I totally agree that everybody's addicted to something one way or the other. Though some people might have been great with control, but maybe at some point in their lives, before they became great without control, they did suffer something that was what pushed them to be in control of something, right? So I believe that one or two people probably struggled with addiction one way or the other. I totally agree. Any person want to say anything before I just hold on what I've written? Anybody want to say anything about addiction and how you overcame it and what you can do differently? So many people here and they don't want to talk. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me, we're looking at ourselves. Anyways, anybody want to say anything about addiction? How to overcome addiction? I hope we're learning. I hope we're taking one or two. Anyway, so because I'm trying to keep to this time, maybe we can move it to 9:10. You see me? But anyways, let me just go ahead. So what I have here for overcoming addiction, the first thing I have here is set a quit date. But before I go to set a quit date, I think it's very important to identify the root cause of that addiction in the first place. Why did you start doing that thing? Was it from your childhood? Was it nurture? Was it something you didn't have control over? Was it an action? Was it a situation that led you to that? Like sometimes we need to just go back to the roots. Why? I ask myself questions. Like I tell my friends, I'll sit down with myself and ask Rosemary, helper, this thing that you did, why did you do this? Like sometimes just ask yourself, what prompted this? How did I start? How did I get here? Because sometimes knowing the origin will really help us a lot to solving the problem, right? So I think it's really important that we, you know, be intentional, like Dr. said, and be very, very, very determined by yourself and just ask yourself those questions. Why do I do this thing? Is it when I'm bored? Is it when I'm stressed? You know, we have things like, people that are in the IT world, for instance, they're very, not drug addicts, but you hear them say that, they have to they have to smoke, for instance, for them to feel some level of motivation because of the work involved in all that they do. So they have to be very, you know, ask yourself what got you there. Because first, when you understand what got you there, then you can find other solutions. You can find solutions to get yourself out. And like what Mary was talking about, replacing it with something else. Something must have gotten you there in the first place. So I think it's really important that we go back to the roots. Let's discover exactly why we do what we do. Another thing I did here is set a quit date. I think this is really important. You know how we talked about the fact that resolution can be the next day. It can be, I remember when we had New Year resolution one time with Wisdom Connect, and how we're talking about how it doesn't have to be New Year. It doesn't have to be New Month. It doesn't have to be, yes, the truth is it really doesn't have to be. You can decide to wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, today I'm changing. Today I'm going to act differently. Now, but what a quit date can do for you, like a special date, is that you know to yourself, like sometimes it just gives you a mental picture because we're humans and there's a way we just really look at things. You can decide, okay, on my birthday, from that day, I would not do this anymore, right? I used to have a family member that used to smoke a lot. And, you know, on him, on the other hand, it wasn't like he set a quit date. He's been trying to stop, but couldn't stop. But then one day he had gotten the cigarettes and he just said to himself, and I think he was just looking at it and he just said to himself, what am I doing? And that was it. Like what Tope was saying, you have to decide by yourself and say, you know what? It's like, and that was it. So he had a pack of cigarettes. I was like, no. But then for you, it could just be like, you know what, from the beginning of this month, I want to do differently. I want to do better with my time. I want to, you know, you can just tell yourself, you know yourself better. So you know what works best for you. If you're the kind of person that stands up today and changes it that day, great. If you're the kind of person that needs to plan towards it, then please do. But it's possible. Set up a quit date. Get a special date. Make it a date that you can always remember. Until so day, blah, 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 yeah, I stopped doing this or I quit this. You know, that kind of thing. That also gives you a mental picture. So quickly, I'll go to the next thing I have here. So change your environment. So changing your environment does not really mean leaving your physical environment. It could also mean that you remove things that remind you of addiction, right? I told you what I did one time for myself, I put off the notification. It was so bad one particular time I wanted to stop WhatsApp, but I couldn't because I use it for work. And I was just like, but I put off notification. So why I put the notification back on was because I was missing out on messages from my company and my bosses because they were still sending messages on WhatsApp and I wasn't getting it. I remember trying to push it and say, can we be talking about on Skype alone or on Teams and all of that, but they didn't accept it. So, but sometimes just change your environment, change the things around you, change the things that is stopping you or that is preventing you from stopping or putting control to that thing, right? I don't know what it might be for sleep, for instance, but it might just be that, like I think like what Mary said, it might just be taking a walk, might just be having something that you know is really important immediately after breakfast. So you know that because you know how important that is, it just gives you that, oh, I have to do this, or I have to do that. It could be anything, right? But just changing the atmosphere, changing what makes you do that thing in the first. That's what I mean by changing your environment. So just try to change it as much as you possibly can, right? Another thing I have here is distract yourself. So distracting yourself can mean anything, right? But I wrote it here that healthy alternative activity, because you can have alternative activities, but if you do not watch it, that alternative activity can also be an addiction. So, but if you already know the symptoms, like we discussed earlier about what symptoms can be to addiction before it gets to what causes addiction and then how to overcome addiction, when you know these things, so even when you replace it with an alternative activity or an alternative thing, right? You know that, okay, once you start to identify those symptoms again, you change it again. So you have to be very intentional about, being changing the things and trying to do better. So that's what I wrote here. So that's why I wrote it that's why I wrote healthy alternative activities. Not just distracting yourself and then you distract yourself and then what happens if it's not for the short-term pleasure, what happens afterwards, right? Another thing here is I wrote an example. I say going for a walk, calling a friend or a family member to talk so that you can keep yourself busy until the urge passes. So you're distracting yourself for that moment, that thing that wants to make you do that thing or to act that way or take that thing. Whatever it is, just try to distract yourself with something else, for that moment. And then after that, you move on to doing other things, right? But please try to make it as healthy as possible because that distraction has the potential of being an addiction itself, right? The next thing I have here is review your past attempts at quitting. What worked and what did not work. Make changes accordingly. I told you guys about how I tried to put timer and then it got to a point I was like, because I noticed that because I was spending time overnight. So it had entered into the new day in my head. But then the timer is not going to be wrong. The timer is counting from 12 midnight. So if by 12 midnight you are on that app, you're on that app. So it's going to keep counting it. So for me now, I have to now be very intentional. So, okay, you know what? If this thing goes off, I just have to go off. Right? So what did not work or what worked? So you can do that better. Or if it did not work, what can I do differently? You have to ask yourself those questions. I'm very intentional. One last thing I have here is create a support network. Create a support network. Like you might have friends together that you guys want to do a particular thing together. You want to change a habit together, or people you can just be accountable to, or maybe sometimes a therapist, honestly, right? Depending on what you are going through. But in all of this, like I said, before you think of creating a support network, I want to believe that you're already intentional about changing that habit in the first place. So create a support network because sometimes that's why we always say on Wisdom Calendar that we should not be doing life alone. You should always have people, community of people. I'm not saying share your life experience with everybody, but just have people to, go walk this life through because we can't do life alone. This life joke. So don't do life alone, right? Like there's a lot. So don't do life alone. So I have a scripture to read. However, I'll allow Benjamin speak, and after that we'll go to that. And that will be how we wrap up this thing. Yes, Benjamin, please go ahead.
Right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It's been an interesting conversation and a very insightful and educative one. Let me start with this. I in the area of substance abuse, which is what most people liken addiction to, or I have none. I don't abuse any substance, and I maybe luckily for me or something, I have never abused any substance. Maybe because I wasn't exposed to that environment, or it didn't just me, whether it's alcohol or smoking or whatever substance. So for some reasons, I'm not addicted to any substance. Then the another thing one can be addicted to, it's behavior. So when it comes to behavior, first of all, you need to be, I think, to overcome that. First of all, you need to be aware. And how do you become aware that you are addicted to a behavior? I think one of the things we need to do is keep a time diary, like a typical day. It's gonna be hard, but that's one of the way forward. So you know what you do? Track your time, track how you spend your time. So you want to know, you track your time for, say, the next 1 week, 2 weeks, and if you can get up to, say, just say 1 a week and 2. So when you're able to track your time, you know how much of your time is going to a particular thing. So for us to identify any behavior that is not leading us to our goal. Now, before you can do that, first of all, the first thing we need to do is identify or have a vision of where we want to go to, where we want to take our life to. For example, if you want to start, say, living healthier or losing weight and all that, the first thing is to write down that goal. Now, when you write down the goal, don't do any other thing. What you do is keep a time diary of all your activities, what you're eating and all that. You want to just see, don't condemn yourself. Don't start saying, oh, I'm a bad person, or no, just observe yourself, observing your real day. So by the time you put them down, you write down everything you've done. Now you begin to ask yourself, which of these activities are taking me closer to what I want to accomplish, or which of these things are taking me away from it? Now, when you begin to identify them, let me tell you one of the things we need to do. Don't be too harsh on yourself. When you say, oh, you know what, I'm going to stop this thing today, and let me tell you something. If you don't have a habit to replace that with, after a while, it comes back, because that habit in the first place is solving a problem. That is your own way of solving that thing. It may not be effective, but it's actually doing something. So you need to identify it and say, oh, this is me, and don't beat up yourself. Now, you know what you do next? Do a habit stacking. So that habit stacking is, before I do this habit, I'll do this habit, this good habit, before I do this habit. Let's say I smoke. I used to smoke, for example. Okay, which time of the day do I usually, that urge comes up the most to smoke? Maybe when I'm stressed and all that, notice that, okay, it's in the evening. Okay, you know what? Before I smoke, I will run I'll do like 15,000 watts and all that. And after that, by the time I do take 15,000 steps and I incorporate the habits, then I'll smoke to reward myself. Wait, hold on. Then after that, when I've incorporated 15,000 steps, then I'll say, before I smoke again, I will do the 15,000 walk, and I will eat a nutritious meal before I smoke. Now, by the time you begin to stack these good habits, you will notice that one of the things that will be hindering you from achieving them is the smoking, and you begin to cut down. So maybe like from a pack, you begin to replace those bad habits with good habits, keep replacing them. And up to a point, you notice that, oh, this habit is actually not helping me. And you know what? You're looking at yourself, you say, oh, I can have control. I can do 10,000 steps. I can eat nutritious meal. I can do my meditation. I can do all this. You begin to have that, grow a healthy esteem and that confidence that you can stop this. And when you begin to see yourself in a healthier way, you notice that those things will begin to do what? They will begin to fade away, because you are now overcoming bad habits with good habits. You get? So it is not it's not an extreme, is this or that, is this or that, it's a continuum. So as you move towards healthier habits, you begin to reduce the habits that it's not, that those habits or those addictions that are not leading you to what you want to achieve. Remember, the first thing is to know where you are heading to.
Benjamin, just to cut you have 1 more minute. Actually, time passed, but 1 more minute.
I'm done.
You're done?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Because we planned when we started this meeting, I said we're going to end at 9:05, and this is already 9:06, so that's why I had to cut you. But I really like what Benjamin said. He said, be aware, keep a time diary. I think that is really important, and start good habits. So good habits replaces the bad one. Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Benjamin. I wish we had more time to listen to more things you had to say. But yes, we want to try to see how much we can keep up to 1 hour. So this is actually 1 hour. But I really want to read the scripture, so we'll just do that 1 minute and just move. So first scripture I want us to read is Matthew 11:28 to 30. Matthew 11:28 to 30 says, real quick, it says, Jesus said, come unto me, all you who are weary and carry heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take your yoke upon me. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle to the heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and burden I give you light. And 1 Corinthians 10:13 to 14 says, the temptation in your life are no different from what other experience, and God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. When you are tempted, He will show you a way out so that you can endure. So my dear friends, flee from the worship of idols. Why did I read this? So sometimes a lot of us just feel like, I want my life with that. I'm addicted to it. No, you can do better. You can do differently. You can also ask God for help. Bible says, come out to me, all you know, I heavy laden, and I will give you rest. So sometimes if you do not have a way out, you don't know what to do about it, you can pray about it. I know we talk about prayer like Nigerians are the most prayed nation, but the truth is there's so much power in prayer. Not addicted to prayer, but there's so much power in prayer, right? And like we said, there's no temptation that you're going through that is bigger than you. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining in today. I hope we learned one or two, and I hope that everything that we're going through individually, one way or the other, we're able to resolve it as much as possible, and we're better for it. All right, guys, until I come your way again, this is Rosemary. God bless you and have a great week. People are not going to say bye to me. It's okay. You are not happy. I ended early. Sorry, forgive me. We're doing better.